There was a time in America when a trip to the mall meant excitement. Families laughed in busy food courts, music echoed through wide hallways, kids tugged their parents toward the next colorful store. Shops felt alive. Big glowing signs promised the latest styles, the newest gadgets, or simply a moment of joy. Malls were more than places to spend money. They were the meeting point of everyday life. But walk into many malls today and you'll find empty shelves, gated entrances, and lights turned off. The crowd is gone. The laughter is gone. What used to feel like a celebration of community now feels like a reminder of how quickly things can change. America's retail heartbeat is fading, and most people feel it, whether they talk about it or not. So as we dive into this story, take a moment to think about your own town. Is your mall still alive? Is your favorite store still open? Are the lights still shining at night? If the answer is no, you're already seeing the warning signs. The retail apocalypse is here. And the real question is your city next? The retail collapse. Across the United States, something quiet but powerful is happening. Retail stores, once the backbone of everyday life, are disappearing one by one. At first, it was small stores, then the mid-sized chains. Now, even the big brands that seemed untouchable are falling. What we're witnessing is not a temporary downturn, it's a transformation. The phrase retail apocalypse may sound dramatic, but for millions of Americans, it feels painfully accurate. Malls that were filled with crowds just a decade ago are now nearly silent. Parking lots that once overflowed with cars are half empty, even on weekends. And buildings that used to glow with bright window displays now sit dark with for lease signs taped to dusty glass. But why does this matter so much? Retail isn't only about selling products. It's a major part of the American lifestyle. It creates jobs. It supports local mayors and city budgets through taxes. It brings life and energy to neighborhoods. When stores shut down, it becomes a chain reaction. A small job loss leads to a family struggling. A closed mall becomes a place of crime and decay. A once active street begins to feel forgotten. One of the most painful losses in this collapse is the disappearance of essential stores. When a pharmacy closes, people must drive far for medication. When a grocery store disappears, a community becomes what experts call a food desert, where families cannot easily get fresh food. Seniors, especially those without cars, are hit the hardest. For them, a store closure is not an inconvenience, it can be life-changing. Experts often point fingers at the rise of online shopping, and yes, ordering with a click has become a part of daily life. But the full picture is much bigger. Retailers are facing expensive rent, high employee wages, crime and safety costs, and competition from every direction. At some point, it becomes impossible for them to stay open. For many Americans, the collapse of retail is also emotional. Stores held memories. A child buying school supplies with their parents. A teenager getting their first job at a mall kiosk. A couple walking hand in hand through busy holiday shopping crowds. These were pieces of life we took for granted. Retail has always been more than just buying things. It brought us together. It gave us a reason to leave home, meet friends, support local businesses, and feel part of a community. Without it, life becomes quieter, lonelier, less connected. Now, with store closings accelerating, people are asking the same frightening question. What happens to a city when its retail heart stops beating? That question is more than symbolic. When retail shuts down, cities lose millions in tax revenue. Services like parks, schools, and public safety rely on that money. Without it, communities decline faster than most people realize. And when decline starts, reversing it is extremely difficult. Why retail giants are falling. Retail giants, the ones that seemed untouchable just a few years ago, are now facing challenges they never imagined. The reasons aren't simple, and the story isn't just about competition. It's about a combination of financial pressure, changing consumer habits, and societal shifts that are shaking the foundations of everyday life. The first major factor is skyrocketing costs. Renting commercial space in prime areas has become extremely expensive. Many stores were already operating on thin margins. Combine high rent with increasing labor costs, insurance, and utilities, and suddenly a store that seemed profitable is bleeding money. Every month becomes a challenge to survive. Next, inflation and shrinking wallets are changing the game. Families are spending more on essentials like groceries, fuel, and healthcare. Discretionary spending on clothing, electronics, or luxury goods has declined. Then there's the security and theft problem. In some cities, shoplifting and organized retail crime have become so pervasive that retailers spend millions each year on loss prevention measures. Of course, technology and the rise of online shopping play a huge role. E-commerce offers convenience that brick-and-mortar stores cannot match. People order with a click, and drones or delivery trucks bring products to their doorstep. Another hidden pressure comes from oversaturation. In the past, many chains expanded aggressively, opening multiple stores in every city. Now, these same stores are competing against each other for the same customers, creating redundancy that eventually leads to closures. And then there are municipal policies and taxes. In several cities, heavy taxation and complicated regulations add another layer of financial burden. Stores that might have survived under normal conditions suddenly face costs they cannot absorb. The system, in many ways, favors online giants that aren't tied to local property taxes or labor laws. All of these factors intertwine, creating a perfect storm. Rising operational costs, changing technology, shrinking consumer spending, crime, municipal pressure. Individually, each challenge is serious. Together, they are devastating. Cities hit the hardest. The retail apocalypse is not an abstract phenomenon. It's not just a headline or a number in a report. It is happening on streets where people live, work, and raise their families. And some cities are feeling the impact more than others. Here, empty malls and boarded-up storefronts aren't just symbols. They are tangible markers of communities under strain. 10. San Francisco, long known for its iconic skyline, tech-driven economy, and vibrant culture, is facing an unprecedented retail collapse. Once thriving shopping districts in Union Square and Market Street are now punctuated by shuttered stores and for lease signs. Skyrocketing rent is one of the core reasons. In the last 5 years, commercial rents have increased by nearly 20%, while middle-income families have struggled to keep up with rising housing costs. Many local retailers, unable to pay the increasing overhead, have had to shut down. Tech layoffs have added fuel to the fire. Employees who once had disposable income to shop at local boutiques or dine at neighborhood cafes now face uncertainty. The ripple effect is clear. Less spending means fewer sales, and fewer sales mean closures. 9. Chicago, Illinois. Chicago's retail collapse hits both urban and suburban areas. The Loop, a bustling commercial hub, is littered with closures that directly affect thousands of workers. Meanwhile, neighborhoods like Lincoln Park and Lakeview face smaller boutique shutdowns that strip communities of gathering places. Economic pressure is a key driver. Retailers struggle with rising taxes, insurance costs, and the ever-increasing challenge of e-commerce competition. When large stores close, it's not just a job loss, it disrupts the ecosystem of local suppliers, delivery services, and small vendors. 8. New York City, New York. New York City, a global hub of commerce and culture, is experiencing an unsettling transformation. Iconic shopping districts like Fifth Avenue and Times Square are seeing more closures than openings. Rents for commercial spaces have surged, leaving many retailers with no choice but to vacate. The human element here is stark. Families that depended on local stores for stable jobs are now facing uncertainty. Small business owners who once helped define the city's character feel displaced. The social fabric of neighborhoods is eroding alongside the physical structures of commerce. 7. Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles presents a microcosm of America's retail collapse. From Hollywood to downtown LA, shuttered storefronts are becoming increasingly common. High commercial rents combined with rising crime in certain districts make it difficult for retailers to sustain operations. 6. Portland, Oregon. Portland's retail collapse is subtle, yet devastating. Once a city celebrated for its local businesses, artisans, and boutique culture, it now faces closures fueled by high rent, a shrinking customer base, and increased operational costs. 5. Seattle, Washington. Seattle, driven by tech, should theoretically thrive. Yet retail collapse is visible in districts like Ballard and Capitol Hill. Rising property costs, combined with the impact of e-commerce, have forced many small businesses to shutter. Personal stories provide context. Alex, who managed a local bookstore for a decade, shares how he saw his loyal customers dwindle as high rents made continued operation impossible. 4. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia's story is one of neighborhoods in flux. With a rich history of commerce and community, retail closures hit deeply. Neighborhood grocery stores, clothing shops, and specialty stores are vanishing. Economic data shows a 15% increase in commercial rent in the past decade, forcing many mid-sized retailers out of the market. Residents are left traveling farther for basic necessities, creating a ripple effect of inconvenience and economic strain. 3. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Minneapolis faces a unique challenge. Retail collapse intersects with social and economic pressures, including population shifts and urban redevelopment. Store closures in uptown and downtown Minneapolis have left gaps in the local economy. 2. Denver, Colorado. Denver's retail ecosystem, previously vibrant in areas like Cherry Creek and downtown, is now punctuated with empty storefronts. Rising operational costs and high rents force businesses to choose between closure or relocation. 1. Washington, D.C. Often associated with politics and tourism, is not immune. Retail collapse here affects both local residents and visitors. Neighborhoods like Georgetown and Capitol Hill have seen small boutiques close under the weight of rising costs and shifting consumer behavior. The impact on everyday Americans. The retail apocalypse doesn't just close doors. It closes opportunities, routines, and the invisible threads that hold communities together. Every shuttered store, every empty mall, every for lease sign sends ripples through the lives of Americans. This is the story of the people behind the numbers. Job loss and economic strain. When a large retail chain shuts down, it's not just a business failing, it's hundreds of families suddenly facing instability. In Los Angeles, workers who once earned modest incomes at boutique shops are now scrambling to find new employment. Some have pivoted to gig economy work, delivery, ride-sharing, freelancing, but the income is inconsistent, the hours long, and the benefits non-existent. The impact extends beyond individuals. Local economies feel the shockwaves. Small suppliers, delivery services, and neighborhood vendors all rely on foot traffic generated by retail hubs. Access to essentials. For many Americans, the closure of local stores is not just an inconvenience, it's a logistical nightmare. In cities like Philadelphia and Minneapolis, residents now have to travel miles to find basic groceries, medicine, or household items. Elderly individuals, people with disabilities, and families without reliable transportation are disproportionately affected. Housing market effects. Retail closures also have a cascading effect on housing. Empty storefronts decrease neighborhood appeal, causing property values to stagnate or drop. Renters face rising costs as landlords compensate for lost business income elsewhere, while prospective homeowners hesitate to invest in declining areas. In Seattle, commercial vacancy rates have climbed sharply, and residential rents have paradoxically spiked as displaced workers search for affordable living near remaining job centers. The tension between declining commercial health and rising personal housing costs is creating a paradoxical economic pressure on the middle class. Community disconnection. Retail is more than commerce. It's social infrastructure. Local stores and malls act as gathering points, informal community centers, and sources of identity. With their disappearance, neighborhoods lose touch points for interaction. Children who once visited neighborhood bookstores or played in adjacent plazas now face fewer communal spaces. Who's thriving in this chaos? Even in the shadows of shuttered stores and abandoned malls, not everyone is losing. Amid the wreckage of America's retail landscape, a new wave of businesses, communities, and creative individuals is finding ways to survive and even thrive. This is the other side of the story: resilience, adaptation, and unexpected opportunity. The rise of discount retailers. When major chains close their doors, discount retailers and dollar stores often step in to fill the void. Their business model thrives on lower overhead, smaller footprints, and a focus on affordability. For families struggling to make ends meet, these stores become lifelines. In Phoenix, Arizona, neighborhoods that lost mid-tier department stores suddenly saw dollar chains opening in the same spaces. Local resident Maria, a single mother of 3, says, "I can't afford fancy stores anymore, but the dollar store gives me what I need without breaking the bank." Online-first brands. E-commerce giants and online-first brands are not just surviving, they're growing. Amazon, Walmart's online division, and a slew of niche brands have learned to meet customers where they are, offering convenience and competitive prices. The shift to digital has created an ecosystem of remote jobs, from customer service to logistics, offering alternatives for displaced retail workers. Yet, this shift also underscores a broader societal divide: those who can adapt to online systems versus those left behind. Local businesses making a comeback. While corporate giants falter, local businesses are sometimes finding renewed life. Independent grocers, boutique shops, and co-op stores are leveraging the gaps left by large chains. In Minneapolis, a small co-op run by community volunteers transformed a former big box store into a grocery hub. It's not just a store. It's a community gathering place, teaching local skills, providing jobs, and offering affordable options. Can cities be saved? The streets of America's cities tell a story of decay: empty malls, shuttered shops, and silent parking lots. But beneath the dust and faded signs lies a spark of possibility. Cities aren't powerless. They can fight back, adapt, and reinvent themselves. The question is, how? Urban redesign and adaptive reuse. One of the most promising approaches is adaptive reuse. Empty retail spaces, once symbols of failure, are being transformed into something entirely new. In Los Angeles, a former department store now houses a mixed-use community center, classrooms, small business incubators, and recreational spaces. Cities like Chicago and Minneapolis have followed similar models. Mall rooftops are being converted into urban farms. Abandoned parking lots now host pop-up markets. These creative solutions turn decay into opportunity. Safe parking zones and RV integration. With the rise of RV living, some cities are rethinking how public spaces are used. Safe parking programs have emerged in Los Angeles, San Diego, and Phoenix. These programs provide designated areas with restrooms, security, and basic facilities for people living in vehicles. It's a controversial solution, but it's effective. These initiatives show that city planning can respond to crises with compassion while maintaining order. Community LED solutions. It's not only government that can act. Communities themselves are finding ways to adapt. Volunteer-run food programs, skill-sharing workshops, and neighborhood co-ops are emerging in cities like Denver and Portland. These community-driven efforts help fill gaps left by both private and public sectors. They show that people can create small but meaningful change even amidst widespread collapse. Technology and future urban planning. Technology also plays a role. Apps connecting displaced workers to flexible jobs, real-time housing availability trackers, and smart city initiatives provide solutions for urban challenges. In Austin, an app was developed to connect gig workers displaced by retail closures with temporary assignments in logistics and delivery. These solutions are small pieces of a much larger puzzle, a hybrid approach combining technology, policy, and human ingenuity.